the inclement weather and so on and so forth. But as soon as Jason makes it back, we'll kick things off. Sorry. Oh, guess we should. Well, hello. This is a very intimate gathering today, which is nice with the inclement weather. We appreciate you making the effort to come and join us. My name is Bob Stellatello, and I'm the owner of Right at Home, Oak Park, Chicago. I want to just start off by stating the obvious. Although we are all business owners and professionals here, this is not a sales seminar. This is an informational panel to provide folks with the knowledge and the tools that they will need to successfully plan for the aging process as it comes. We call the program Engaging with Aging because surely we want to engage with it, it will engage with us. And the more that we do now in terms of planning, the more control we'll have, the more influence we will have over what happens to us both before and after our time comes. So it's our intention today to talk about a number of different topics that will give you the ability to know the questions that you need to ask. If these are, a lot of them are things people aren't even aware of, and some places to go and get the answers that you need so that you can prepare and have as much control over your future situation. The last thing any of us wants to do is make decisions in crisis. It's a burden on ourselves and stress. It's a burden on our families as well. So this is how you go about avoiding that. The aging population is quite a big factor these days. I think Meredith got some information about that.
As Bob mentioned, aging is coming to all of us and to our families. In the country right now, as probably most of you know, as the baby boom is aging, we have a larger percentage of people in America at age 65 or over than ever before, and this is only going to get bigger. It's projected that by the year 2040, there will be 14 million plus people age 85 and older in this country. And in Illinois right now, the average of people who are age 65 and older is a little bit higher than in the rest of the country. So we're starting to feel some of the effects of the aging trend more acutely in this state than some other places. There are many different names of this swell of population that is getting older right now. I like the silver tsunami term, but whatever it is that people want to call it, it's going to have profound sociological, social, and financial implications on all of us and the people in the country as we go forward. So we're going to start with Jason Johns, who's going to tell us a little bit of how you can protect your own assets or your family's assets as you go further along the process of aging.
Why don't we introduce ourselves each before we start? So that I know we have name tags here, but
you want to go down the row or start with me? Okay. I'm Jason Johns. I'm a trust and estates attorney. I work for a small law firm, about 15 attorneys in North Loop, downtown.
I'm Meredith Morris. I'm the owner of Caring Transitions, which is based in Oak Park. I am a senior move manager and estate sale conductor.
I'm Eleanor Weber. I'm an independent life insurance and health and long-term care broker in the Oak Park River Forest.
And I'm Catherine Beadle. I am a marketing and business development coordinator for Holly Court Terrace, a Brookdale senior living community, also located here in Oak Park, right next to Trader Joe's.
as I said, I'm Robert Stellatello. I'm the owner of Right at Home, Oak Park, Chicago. We provide in-home care and assistance for seniors and disabled adults.
Can I just ask, can everyone hear? They have microphones, but if they don't have to use them, they won't. Okay.
Everybody can hear? Good.
Okay. As Bob and Meredith started talking about how important it is to engage in this process and to develop a plan for the aging, what's going to be coming to us all. It's not just putting into place a plan, but also a legally recognized plan. One that will help your wishes, make sure that your wishes are fulfilled and carried out. that's an estate plan, is a legally recognized plan. It's not just about planning for your death or even just planning for your assets. Estate planning is much more than that. It's more about putting into place mechanisms and individuals to make decisions when you are unable to do so yourself. Those kinds of decisions include medical interventions, different healthcare decisions, life-sustaining treatment, end-of-life expenses, making sure that your bills are paid when you're disabled, or even after you've passed away. Deciding who you want to receive your assets when you do pass, and it's really more about putting into place a structure for the future, planning for the future. Now, an estate plan includes usually at least 3 different legal documents. One is a will, one is a power of attorney for property, a power of attorney for health care, and if the situation calls for it, a living trust. You have to coordinate all of those with your beneficiary designations. Those are the IRA, life insurance, that kind of thing. Now, to start off kind of explaining about a will, one of the issues with a will is that it is only effective when you actually do pass away. It has no effect when if you become disabled. The executor cannot make decisions for you if you're disabled. It has no control over your finances at that point. And also the executor only has limited authority until they are appointed by a court. So the fact that somebody may have a will, that's fine, but it's only part of the plan. In addition to that, there is the power of attorney for property, which is designating somebody to make to make property decisions, financial decisions for you when you're unable to. Paying the bills, if, for example, you're in a situation where you're moving into a nursing home or an assisted living facility and the home is being sold. The power of attorney for property, the agent that you designate can actually sign the documents and make that happen. The power of attorney for health care is you're designating an individual to make health care decisions for you when you're unable. The medical community, the doctors, the hospitals, are going to take your wishes. They're going to listen to you while you're capable of making those decisions. When you're not, then they're going to look to your agent. The power of attorney for healthcare also, within that document, you indicate your wishes regarding life-sustaining treatment and also whether or not you want organ donation as well. Those are all part of that same document. A living trust is essentially it's a cup that you would put your assets into. It is revocable. You can terminate it at any time you want, but you put your assets into the cup, and when you become disabled or when you pass away, basically you just hand off the cup to somebody else who then manages the assets that are in the cup. It is effective when you're disabled, unlike the will. So if you're in a coma or something like that, the successor trustee just simply steps up and manages their assets. It's a much more seamless process than with an estate, with a will, having the executor appointed. Now, there are some additional tools, different additional parts of the estate plan that can be included. One is a living will. This is a declaration of your wishes for life-sustaining treatment. It is static. It is, in my view, we typically don't use living wills because I like having an agent appointed. You're appointing somebody to make, somebody to be in the room, knowing the situation, somebody that you trust, and to make those decisions for you. That's your agent under the power of attorney for health care. If instead you try and do a living will, in essence, you're trying to predict the future. You're not going to know what that situation is going to be, the facts of the event. So it's it's easier to have the power of attorney, it's preferable to have the power of attorney for healthcare, for the agent to make the decisions, knowing the situation instead of trying to predict the future. Also, if you have a valid power of attorney for healthcare, it essentially trumps any living will that you may have. In addition, there's the DNR, do not necessitate. It has recently been revised in Illinois. It's a physician's order for life-sustaining treatment. This is sort of a, if you may be familiar with the Common Core in education, it's sort of a similar situation where they're trying to standardize all the different states on one type of form. The new form is much more elaborate. There's more options on the form than simply do not resuscitate. There you can make decisions regarding palliative care, that kind of thing. Other parts of your estate plan can include a prepaid funeral, burial arrangements. Putting those into place ahead of time now does make this issues easier, making decisions when you do pass away. It's also an exempt asset if you're worried about Medicaid. There are also ways to own property jointly. Married couples, tenancy by the entirety is a unique form of joint ownership where for a married couple it provides creditor protection, but in addition, then once the first spouse passes away, the property automatically passes to the surviving spouse. It is in Illinois, that's available only for real estate, your primary residence. It's not available for any brokerage accounts and things like that, but that can be, you can do joint property otherwise. It's just not that same creditor protection as the real estate. All of these are different strategies that you need to put into place ahead of time. It's all, again, engaging with the aging process and planning for the future, and you need to put them into place now while you still have the ability to do so. Because when you start to slip or when you lack capacity, it's too late to put this plan into effect.
Well, speaking of slipping or lacking capacity, why don't we talk about some of the signs that home care may be needed. What we'll see is changes either in personal habits, hygiene, appearance, dress, changes in the way the home is maintained. If we have someone who has always been a very sharp dresser, very well put together, and now they're having some issues, the hair is unkempt or things are misbuttoned or whatever. Same with the home. Someone has always had a very spotless, well taken care of home, and now it's not quite in that same shape. Now, it could just be that their eyes are not as good as they once were, and they don't see some of the things that are there. That's my issue. Other signs can be increasing confusion, forgetfulness, inability to remember once familiar people, places, or things. A lack of interest in common activities or pastime, things that they've done for years, going to church regularly, being part of a bridge group, a coffee or a lunch circle, hobbies, community service, all of a sudden becomes too much trouble, or they're not interested in it anymore. Difficulty handling one's routine tasks, things around the house, cleaning, maintenance, cooking, driving can become an issue. Another sign can be inability to process or master new information. Now, sometimes these things come along gradually, and people may recognize the signs and do a lot to try and mask them. It is not uncommon for there to be denial or fighting of these signs. And very often, people get pretty good at keeping these things a secret, and you don't really find out about them until the holidays. Folks that come home, the kids come home after not being around for a year or so, and then it's like, ooh, geez, you see what's going on at Mom's house? We may need to get something done here. It's easier to mask these sorts of things over the telephone than it is when somebody's right there in the house with you. So in terms of in-home care, there's really two types. They're non-medical. There's companion care, which is going to be light housekeeping, meal prep errands, transport to appointments, reminders to take medication, assistance with laundry, standby assist to make sure that people aren't falling. If people have needs that are greater than that, we would now call that personal care. Personal care is really the assistance with the tasks of daily living. That's eating, walking, dressing, bathing, toileting, hygiene, grooming, transfers from one spot to another. These would typically be performed by a certified nursing assistant, a CNA. In addition to that, home care is provided really in three types of ways, going from the most informal to the most formal. A great deal of care is provided by the private hire, the nice young girl from up the street, friend of the friend from church. And these are typically done as a cash transaction, and it's on the QT. You also have services provided through placement agencies. These will be licensed entities with the state, and there is some background checking and vetting of the caregivers. And once an introduction is made between the caregiver and the family by that placement agency, the fee is paid, and the placement agency is supposed to step out of the picture. So now that individual is your employee. So at that point, it's just like a private hire. And the issues that come up with those is that there's no taxes being paid, there's no coverages for unemployment or workers' compensation if there's an injury that's in place. And in the state of Illinois, there is no home care workers exemption. So anyone that is hired as a domestic employee, that family is considered to be the employer, and they are required to go to Department of Employment Security and register for unemployment insurance. They're required to go to the Department of Revenue and register and pay withholding taxes. They're required to have liability insurance. They're required to have unemployment or workers' compensation insurance. And they're required to pay overtime if workers in there for more than 40 hours in any given week. Very rarely does that actually happen. And it's not a problem until it's a problem. If something happens, then it becomes an issue, and that will come about because maybe that term of employment ends and that caregiver wants to go down and collect unemployment, and whoops, they're not in the system. Or they have some sort of an injury, and they're looking to get their medical bills covered. And there's no insurance in place, so now they're looking to the family for that. The last type of service provider would be a full-service agency. This is someone who is registered, licensed through the state, they're inspected. The caregivers are the employees of this organization. They're W-2 employees, so all of the taxes and all of those registrations and all of that stuff is taken care of. In addition, there's background checks and there's training and there's supervision, but most importantly, there's also backup. If something should happen, car trouble, sickness, vacation, there is another person, another caregiver that can be scheduled to step in and make sure that you or your loved ones are taken care of. So in order to find out what it is that you're dealing with, there's some questions that you can ask. Is the caregiver my employee? Who's employing this caregiver? Who was responsible for registering with the appropriate authorities, paying unemployment insurance, payroll taxes, workers' comp, overtime expenses? Are these caregivers background checked? Are they drug tested? Are they trained and supervised? And is there backup if the caregiver is sick or on vacation or has car trouble? The big question that everybody has, and I think that there's a perception that in-home care is extremely expensive. Quite frankly, if you want to do it in comparison to some forms of community care or like that, it can be a very reasonably priced option, depending on how much of it you need. So let's look at that. It's typically provided in three separate ways, either hourly or as an overnight, where someone just needs to be safe and they may tend to wander at night or something like that, or have trouble getting back in bed if they need to get up and use the restroom. And then the highest level would be a live-in, where somebody is there 24 hours a day. So your hourly rates are going to run from $12, that would typically be your private hire, that's just paid in cash under the table, up to $25 an hour would be quite at the high end, and that would be for somebody who needed pretty skilled care. Overnight rates are going to also range from $120 to $180 a day, and that also goes at the low end, your private hire cash on up. Live-in rates will be from $200 to $280 a day, depending on the level of care that's needed. So having in-home care can certainly make a difference in people's ability to age in place and to remain safe and secure in their homes. But, at some point, there may come a time when in-home care is not sufficient, and at that point, you're going to want to talk to somebody about the options that you have for housing in care communities. And after, we'll cover some of those available options that we have for that care.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to look at a few senior housing options for you. The 55-plus communities are just that. They're geared for people 55 and above. They typically are gated communities. I think when people think of these types of communities, the first thing you think of are like the Del Webbs of the world, where they made it kind of big business to have a large group setting with all the amenities you could want on a golf course, with tennis courts, a clubhouse. All of your outside maintenance is taken care of. You've got 24-hour security there. They tend to be ranch homes, so they're friendly for seniors with issues going up and downstairs. And again, close-knit communities, but still really for active, independent living seniors who are looking for some of the services and amenities that are already in place, and they tend to be in the warmer weather climates.
Like Huntley.
Yeah. Their big bases are in the western states and the south states, but the independent living communities, again, those are just what they say they are. For people who are still able to get out, you still drive, you still shop, you still have friends, you still cook to some extent, but are still, functioning, but want to be in a secure environment, know that there's help available if you need it, and have all of these sort of lifestyle amenities that come along with it. Supportive living, which is the state's sort of way of helping out. It's just that it's sliding scale, it's income-based, it's housing for seniors who are on Social Security and who have a limited income, and your rent is in direct correlation with how much money you bring in every month, whether that's your investments or whether that's straight Social Security. Assisted living, which is medical care. It is assistance with activities of daily living, but also with any type of medical issues that you might have. Memory care, they tend to be standalone facilities and units specializing in dementia and Parkinson's disease. They are secured units. They're really highly specialized and are unfortunately a very necessary product, but can also be sort of a fine line you walk when you have one spouse that maybe has some memory issues and another spouse that doesn't, but the folks want to remain together. Finding a memory care facility that could meet both parties' needs is a challenge, but can be done. Nursing and rehabilitation is kind of what we used to call a nursing home, but isn't referred to that anymore. It's a skilled nursing facility and rehabilitation for short-term care, people that have had surgeries, who aren't really well enough to go home, but aren't sick enough to still be at the hospital. And hospice, end-of-life care, people that are caring for people who are dying and giving them all the comfort and all the needs that they have, and they're being met right on site. Continuing care retirement communities, they're kind of the new buzzword for now. Basically what they did is they looked at all the primary senior living choices, and they decided we can do all of these in one campus or one larger community. There's basically 4 types: independent living, assisted living, the memory care, and the skilled nursing and rehabilitation that you'll find in what's commonly known as a CCRC. The good points about those is they do offer an active community lifestyle. There's certainly opportunities for engagement. There's support as your care needs change, so you can come in independent. You can find that you need a little more care and move into the assisted living. Sometimes that's within the same building, and sometimes that's just on the property of these larger communities. And they offer the various levels of care. So for some people, they want to move only one time, as moving is not great fun. So they're looking at all this and saying, okay, if this happens, if this happens, if this happens, I want to know that I have these options. And so they want to choose a continuing care retirement community. So if their needs change, they're covered. The transition from one level to the next happens within the same community, like I said, so this provides a permanent link for friends and family to know that their loved one will be in the same location. Again, that kind of confidence really makes people, it's a great choice for people when that's their main concern. These places have the same kind of amenities and services that the other ones do. They have, your rent includes your meals typically, your home maintenance, your care, All those things are built into your fee structure, so you can also plan accordingly, knowing that this is exactly how much it's going to cost you, which is helpful. Let's see, sorry. Getting the right fit. There's a lot of different communal living for seniors, and it can be very difficult to try to figure out how to know which one's a good option. A lot of them offer similar amenities and services. So although sometimes people look at location, there's more to it than just finding a place that's in the right community or near your family. A lot of the things you should check out are programs and events to make sure that they have different types of activities and things that may be of interest to you or your loved one. Meals. We always recommend that people go and try a meal at a community they're looking at. Almost all communities will provide you with a free meal, and you should definitely take advantage of that. Transportation, they have bus and car services, places where they will take you. That is typically included in your monthly, so if you're no longer driving, you definitely want to make sure that that's an option. Housekeeping and maintenance, those are included. Personal services and therapy and home health sometimes are involved in community settings as well. Memory care communities, again, are sort of a specific dynamic for senior living. They tend to have a lot of specialized things like enhanced lighting, color coding, visual cues, memory boxes outside people's doors, easier like walking paths and secure outdoor environments for seniors. Their events are certainly specific to their needs, and certainly something to look into if your loved one is suffering from any type of memory issues. A lot of times it's for, if nothing more than just safety's sake, to know that you have the peace of mind of knowing your loved one is safe in their home. Rehabilitation can provide the acute medical and custodial care that you have, disease management, illness care, and terminal illness care and end-of-life care. Skilled nursing is definitely a component that most people don't look forward to, but is very necessary. And there's, again, a lot of different facilities out there. The government does rate those facilities. You can look online to check out what rating these facilities get. You can check reviews on Google and on Yelp. You can certainly ask other people, and when touring the other facilities, talk to residents that are living in those communities and ask them what their experience has been. There's lots of different publications and senior guides that are available that you can check out. But really, the best way to find out is kind of straight from the horse's mouth when you're there. Meet the administrator of a facility, meet the staff of a facility, ask as many questions as you can of those folks, and really delve into it. I mean, this is not only a big dollar investment, but this is, again, something that you want to feel good about, knowing that your loved one's getting the best possible care. There's certainly a host and a wealth of choices out there, so unfortunately doing your homework will take a little bit of legwork on your part, but with the internet now, it's certainly made it a lot easier to see and get a feel for everything without having to tromp around town first. You can do a lot of the legwork on the front end from the comfort of your own home. Financial needs, part of what is finding the right fit for a senior living community is knowing how much money it's going to cost you and how much money you have to spend. And although nobody has a crystal ball to predict how long you're going to live or if you'll outlive your resources, it's certainly nice to be able to know all of your options. For some communities, that may mean moving into a Medicare type facility if you do run out of money. And knowing to ask those questions are important, so you know what your options are if that would happen. And again, knowing if you are a private pay person, if you have a long-term care insurance plan that would kick in, or if you know you're going to need a supportive living or sliding scale facility, you will know then which direction to begin to look, so you're not wasting your time looking at a community that is just not priced right for you. So doing your homework ahead of time before you start touring would certainly save you some legwork as well. Which leads me to transitioning into this type of community, which is not an easy thing to do.
No, I'm talking about moving. And whether you or someone in your family is moving into one of the different senior communities that Catherine mentioned, or just downsizing into an apartment, a condo, a shared living situation, moving in with family members, however one is choosing to downsize, it's going to be a big job. There are many reasons why people move, as you all know. Could be just that you want to be closer to family. It could be that you're socially isolated, that you want to be more in connection with other people and be able to go to bridge group and all those good things without having to leave your home. Or it could be that you have physical or cognitive needs which really make you not safe to be able to be comfortable in your own home. But again, whatever the reason why why you are moving, it is a huge and difficult task, both emotionally and physically. And it's a really good idea if you or your loved one who is downsizing involves some other people in that process, which could be friends and family, or could also be a company. I am a senior move management company myself, but there are plenty of other senior move management companies and smaller companies that do smaller pieces of the job, people who can help with organizing, decluttering, whatever it is that's going on. Also, having some objectivity in the whole process is not necessarily a bad thing. When you think about maybe working with your own parent to figure what goes, what stays. You know, there's a lot of emotional, non-concrete and not always logical decision-making that goes into these kinds of decisions. And again, sometimes not a bad thing just to have a third party. The steps involved in downsizing essentially are first sorting and decluttering, dividing your items into piles of what you want to take with you, what you want to donate, what you want to sell, what you want to send to friends or family members, and what you should have just gotten rid of 20 years ago and you didn't, so now it's trash. So those are the basic points of division. You need to do a little floor planning, especially if you're moving into a community. As Catherine mentioned, it should be very easy to get a floor plan so you know exactly how many square feet you're moving from and into. Last thing you want is to undergo this whole move and wind out with half of your belongings out there in the hallway. That would be a bad thing. So taking all this, again, seriously and working it through before you move it is a really good thing to do. After you've sorted, decided where your things are going to go, then it's time to pack, move. Again, help can be enlisted to help you get the bids for the moving, help you make the right choice for who's a good mover to work with, take care of that whole process, and unsettle you at the other end. Once the boxes arrive in your new space, you want to get resettled and you want those boxes out of there as soon as possible. Because again, chances are you're moving into a much smaller space than that which you left. Boxes are going to be an issue. So again, there is help available for that, which can include just the people you know. But thinking all of these things ahead before it happens is a good idea. Another thing that's really key is that the person who is the person moving, if possible, should remain in control of the situation. Whether you're hiring a company, whether you're working with family, really it should be all about the person who's actually moving. And there's something wrong with the whole process and how it's being done if the person, him or herself, who's moving isn't the one who's calling most of the shots. So, once you've moved, then you have this big house that's probably full of some things that you didn't take with you. So the question becomes, what are you going to do with the house? And there are a couple of different options on that score. Estate sale, as you know, is the big one. Other options include just donating, just getting the house empty, getting rid of what's in the house, or enlisting a buyout person. And essentially what a buyout person is a person who will come and make an offer on just getting rid of everything in your house. In a perfect world, you'll make some money on that, but if the buyout person feels as though he's not going to be able to sell what you have for any decent amount of money and it's going to cost him more to haul it away, then the buyout person may be telling you how much it will cost you. But nonetheless, he'll be getting rid of all the stuff and you'll have your house ready to list. The estate sale question is not as straightforward as some people think. Again, if you don't have the quality and the quantity of items that are necessary for a robust estate sale, then you may not wind up making money. It may cost you more to hold the estate sale than you will make from the sale. So don't just assume that that's going to be the way that you want to go. If you decide that you do want to have an estate sale, again, just as Catherine's saying with the senior living communities, you're going to want to do your research ahead of time. You're going to want to go to different sales that are held by different companies, see if you like the ambiance, if you like the look of the sale, interview the people who own the companies or the people who you'd be working for and ask them a lot of questions. Some of the key questions are, how do you price? Does the company set the pricing or do you set the pricing?